All right, welcome to another episode of the Vets in Real Estate podcast. I'm joined by another veteran who has made the transition to real estate and looks like they're making a couple of transitions since then. So, Randy, thank you so much for being willing to join us and sharing your story and what you've learned along the way.
Thank you so much. I appreciate this opportunity and I look forward to it.
Yeah, so tell us, what did you do in the military, Randy?
So, when I first joined, I started as a culinary specialist in the Army. And I know that a lot of people call them like cooks. It's kind of basic. But so I chose to do culinaries, be a culinary specialist, and that's just cooking for hundreds of soldiers. I kind of did that for a couple of years and then just kind of let my career kind of evolve from there.
And so you spent your entire time in as a culinary specialist?
Yes, until I went on deployment. So I went to Kuwait. And then when I went to Kuwait, you know how it's kind of like, well, if you're not doing your job while we're overseas, now you're just going to be an additional body per se. So now they're going to assign you a job. So we're in Kuwait, so it wasn't like I could just keep on cooking, especially we're working on the airfield. So they were like, you know what? We had this open position. You're going to be our like primary armor. And what I didn't understand at the time was I'm just overseas accounting for all these weapons. And I was like, it like dawned on me a couple months in. I was like, man, don't people usually go to like classes for this? At least some type of class. So
Yeah.
that was my job for about 9 months. And then I had got promoted to sergeant, and then I was about, that was kind of September of 2022. And then I kind of stayed in for about another, maybe give or take 9 or 8 months. And then I just transitioned out like July of 2023.
Okay. Now you've done some things that while you're in service, you weren't necessarily doing real estate, but you took the time to kind of start positioning yourself as kind of an expert and a leader prior to by writing some books. Like most Army guys can't spell or write with colored crayons, right? So how are you over here writing books?
So the beautiful thing about being in the service or even just going overseas is that you don't have to worry about, it's like Maslow's laws of a hierarchy of
Hmm.
needs. So you don't have to worry about food, clothing, money. And I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna look to write a book. So the idea came about. I was talking to my sergeant one early, morning, and I was like, hey, Sarge, let's look to just have like a, ranks off type of conversation. I just want to have a real conversation with you. And the idea for the book came from understanding, from my perspective, that service members don't get enough opportunity to tell their story. And sometimes what happens is there's such a disconnect between enlisted and officers. And so I was like, what if I was able to just interview a lot of high ranking officers and enlisted, service members so that then I can look to honestly just tell their story and give this advice to the next service member.
Hmm. So how did that? I mean, did the chain of command seem pretty willing? I mean, obviously you published.
I
So
did.
what did that process look like?
So what I did was I was just going around the base and I was like, hey, you know, my name is Specialist Mbouge. I just want an opportunity to interview you. And some would say no. Some people would be like, what for? They'd be a little hesitant. And I was just like, it's just two questions. So the first question was, what is one piece of advice they would give to a young service member? Then the second question was, what is one piece of advice they would give to a civilian? So it wasn't too
Hmm.
like, I guess you could say secretive. It wasn't too confidential. It was
Sure.
just a matter of just information and wisdom. So my command didn't really have too much to say, to be honest.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So so did you publish while you were still downrange, and you're able to do that whole process through there?
So I ended up publishing. So I started writing the book while I was overseas, and
Hmm.
then it was almost about 14 months after coming back home that I decided to publish. So a
Awesome.
lot of the time was editing and like typing all the interviews because I did over about 260 interviews, I believe.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it was a lot. It was a lot.
So as you start taking that how did you start seeing, kind of that transition out into the world? I mean, were you thinking, hey, maybe being an author, maybe doing something more, maybe journalism or something along those lines was kind of the path that you were thinking? And how did you end up going from culinary to armor to writing a book to now into real estate? Like that's a not your normal arc.
Right. So what happened was I had got my real estate license before I even went on deployment. But what was happening was I kept starting and stopping in real estate, starting and stopping. And so when you keep on doing that loop of starting and stopping, you're not able to reap all of your benefits. So what I ended up doing is that I went overseas, and then when I came back home, or as I was actually going through the process of even being overseas, I was also doing financial literacy classes, type of like knowledge is power type of classes overseas, which allowed me to give a lot of information to other service members. And so when I realized that I really loved helping the next generation, I really loved ensuring that, service members were feeling more of like the holistic benefit of being in the service. That's when I decided that I'll just reinstate my real estate license again in 2023 of like, it was about March of 2023 that I reinstated my real estate license. And then I just continued to progress from there in teaching service members more about financial literacy.
And I like what you're bringing up with the financial literacy, because that's one of the conversations we have on many of the podcast guests we've had. Is they're like, I had no idea how to buy a home. I had no idea how to budget when I suddenly didn't get paid on the 1st and the 15th and I moved to commission. Oh my God, my world almost ended. And we're talking to people that were successful. I can only imagine the people that weren't successful, that couldn't manage all that got into real estate, and then the fail rate is
it's
90%, right? So what is it that from the financial literacy do you think that most service members miss, especially as they transition into kind of that civilian world and especially into real estate?
I think that's a very valid question. I think what happens is really understanding where that stream of income is going to come from when you're getting out of the service. Like, I remember I got into like private security because I was like, man, I just need some money right now. And so I would challenge service members that as you're looking to get out of the service is to make sure you have some stream of income coming in on a consistent basis, so that yes, when you do get those closings, or when you do find a job or another entrepreneurial endeavor that you genuinely want to do, you're able to evolve and keep going from there. So make sure you have some form of stream of income, so that then you're not making any rushed decisions or decisions that are irreversible. Like, I was about a year in or so, and I was like, oh man, I might just consider re-enlisting to see what type of bonus I can get, so that I can just look to have some more money. So it's hard. That's a very hard crossroad when you get out and you're like, this isn't working. I'm about to go back into the service. So I challenge you to just make sure you have your ducks in a row pertaining to the decisions that you make and the choices that are in your control, to make sure you have some form of consistent income.
Yeah, I will say, I know when I was it was during my first deployment, so I was 3-ish years or so in service on a 6-year contract, and they're like, if you guys will extend to stay in country, re-enlist for another whatever, we're going to give you is like $40,000 or $50,000. So I'm thinking, like, that's a year's worth of wages to make a decision right now. And at the moment I was like, I hate this. I don't want to do this. I'm stuck in the middle of it. And I often go back and think about that from sometimes too. Now, knowing what I know now, could I have taken that $50,000, $60,000 or whatever it was and invested and be in a completely different track? Now, knowing me, I would have bought the Mustang for 43% interest rate. I've done all the dumb things that most of us do, but it's interesting that they almost trap you when that bonus time comes around.
They do. It's a crazy trap. I mean, I remember being in Kuwait and they were talking about like, yes, if you get the bonus now, it won't be as taxed. And then like for me at the time, like just honestly, it just didn't seem like it was enough money for the next X amount of years they were asking me for. And so it is a trap when you're young and the military is like, hey, like if you just come back in, I can give you a little bit more money. And it's like, that's not the reason why I want to, join again. Like, and for some people it is. Like if you don't have any option or anywhere to fall back on, it's guess the army got me or the military got me for another 3 to 6 years.
Right. Well, and especially when so many of us that are coming in enlisted came from poverty, came from not well-off families, were maybe enlisting to escape something. Financial literacy, I can tell you in my home, financial literacy wasn't taught. It wasn't
Mm-hmm.
something we really talked about. My parents have now probably gotten wiser throughout the time, but, it wasn't something we were taught at home. Now looking back at it, I mean, that was part of the reason why I joined the service was I needed money for college. I needed to have some type of skills. I needed something to go into, but yet they never taught us what to do. And oddly enough, it was somebody like you, a command financial specialist, somebody teaching those classes was the reason why I decided to get into real estate because I was going to be a
Mm-hmm.
real estate investor.
Wow, yeah.
Was some of what you were doing was already kind of pushing you into real estate because of kind of teaching those classes and starting to think of the financial future of service members?
It It really was. It was very interesting to see, like, when I had certain conversations with service members, and I'd be like, if you just worked on your credit, if you just made X amount of dollars, you'd be able to set yourself up for 5, 10, 15 years from now. Like, even one of my sergeants. So the funny thing is, too, for context, in 2022, I had wanted to buy a house before I came back home. But when you're going through that process of just buying a house, the the biggest thing that the lender is going to make sure is that you have consistent income when you come back
Mhm.
home. And I had messed up let's just say I didn't get pre-approved, and so I was under contract, didn't get the close on the house, but my sergeant who I spoke to or heard me talking about real estate closed on his house and was like, man, I really thank you for those conversations that you were willing to or that you were
Mhm.
having, so that I was then able to think about buying real estate. So it's like while one door closed, another door opened, and it was just because of the information of just learning more about money. And that also that's what I really feel like got me into wanting to teach more about financial literacy, because I didn't know what was required of me to use
Mhm.
the VA loan, and that's why I wasn't able to close on my house at the time. So now it's like doing it over again, or being able to talk to service members now. I remember doing a presentation a couple months ago. It was maybe a class of like 70 plus service members. I said, how many of you know how to use your VA loan? How to close, how to get it closed and funded? Maybe 8 to 10 of them raised their hand. Then I
Mhm.
said, how many of you do not know how to use your VA loan? The majority of the room raised their hand. And that's just one class. So it's just to imagine how many service members don't even know how to use their VA loan.
So as you started, building your real estate business, it sounds like you kind of took this financial literacy as kind of a mission, and I'm assuming is that a good chunk of your marketing is working with first time home buyers and trying to grow people's investments. Is that kind of where you found that naturally fit?
It is because I felt like I could relate to the service member who I was speaking to about, like, hey, like, if you don't work on your credit now, when you do want to buy a home, you're not going to be able to. So I've helped service members also look to work on their credit, because that is a part of the home buying process. So yes, I would say most of my marketing definitely does go towards just building the one-on-one relationships with the people who are able to then get me in front of the other service members.
So you've obviously looking at multiple service members over and over again. What mistakes are you seeing that they're making as they make that transition out? Because even coming into commission sales work on the real estate side, like you've got to have some kind of income, you've got to have some kind of nest egg. What what is it that you're seeing that service members continually mess up or don't do right, especially as they transition out?
I think one of the biggest things is, one, knowing the customer that you want to serve. It took me about a year to really understand, like, oh my gosh, if I just focus on service members, I'll be able to close more deals. So I would say one is knowing your ideal customer. Secondly, is that do not do away with all the relationships that you built while you're in the service, because you don't know that eve three that you're just buddy with could now look to become like an E8 or E7, and now they're actually in the position to possibly be doing a lot more deals. But because, we say, I don't want to stay friends with that person, I'm out the service, I'm better than them, I'm not going to talk to them again. Now we miss out on that relationship. And then another thing that I would challenge service members to know and kind of like understand is just be mindful of how they're marketing and promoting themselves. I feel like if you're not getting out there, whether that's in person or on social media, how can you expect people to want to then do business with you?
Mm. I can see that. I think that's one of the things that being out as long as I've been out a little longer than you have now, and now going back almost, God, way too long. I don't want to say now. Looking back at the people I knew and some of the people that I was like, man, that guy's going to be a loser. And then turn around and watch them build a business where, the one guy I'm thinking of deliberately went and built a services business, back in his hometown. I'm just like, you were the shitbag. You were the terrible soldier we had, but yet you've got this business that's outperforming my business doing this. Or, on the other side of it is one of the pilots we worked with. He was high speed. He was good people. I liked him, through there. And now he's the CEO of Hiring Heroes. Like watching like do amazing things where it's always shocking to see where certain people go, or even I can think of a lieutenant colonel we had there who, high speed, and then their civilian career, it shambles. It's nothing. And
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. The relationships you make, I'm so surprised that they're always there, but you never know where somebody's going to go. And the military is such a microcosm of what their potential is, where once they remove the military, their potential could be unlocked.
Right. I think, and that's another thing too. I'm happy you said that. It sometimes feels like service members really do have a limited perspective of what they can become because of maybe what they haven't seen, whether that's their command or what they saw before they joined the service. Like, another example of this is like, how many people do you maybe come across that are enlisted that may actually be great officers, but because they never said, what would it look like for me to just go warrant? What would it look like for me to just commission officially? Like, and at least have that conversation, right? Because then I feel like you're still going to work hard. You're just saying, is there a way for me to also work smarter, possibly? Like, and explore your options. I feel like a lot of service members need to stop speaking down on themselves and their capacity. Like, you're doing,
Why do you think that I agree with you, but why do you think that happens? Why do so many service members, I think more enlisted than maybe the officer side, why do so many enlisted have this self-doubt? How do they talk down to themselves, or they don't think they're capable? What do you think is driving that?
I think it's two things. I think it's two things that come to mind initially. I feel like the first is,
oh, did I lose you altogether?
Their understanding of their own potential. So that's based off of their own experiences. And then I feel like secondly, what plays a very big factor is the leadership that they've had. So if they have leadership that has not been speaking to their higher self, they are then not able to see where it is that they can go because of their own potential or their own future that they're kind of like creating for themselves. So I feel like the first one is understanding your level of capacity based off of your experiences or of what you've seen other people do. And the next is whether that leader or leaders are speaking life into them so that they can see more for themselves. When I was a private, I had captains, sergeants, and, just higher enlisted just speaking life over me, saying that, oh no, you'll be okay, or you know what, I could really see you doing that, even though it was hard. Like, it was hard initially. Like, I was 19 when I got my real estate license, so it was like talking to people who are older than me that have served longer than me. When I was I was still in when I got it initially, and they were like, oh, you're not gonna get it. Like, I know someone else who's older than you who just said they want to get their real estate license but never got it. So it's just like, you have to also a third gem I would say is like you also have to believe your conviction. So if you're willing to profess it to say that this is something you want to do, at least shoot for it and strive for it and don't speak down on your potential.
Yeah, I think too often we get stuck in this self-deprecating humor, the things that we're it's easy, and I'm guilty of it as well, but then that turns into just negative talk. It
Yeah,
turns into you starting to believe the jokes and those kind of things, and I don't know, it's
that's
interesting,
another thing. Yeah.
and I think even with is coming into agents, like you can tell a difference. Those that, oh, it's a market, it's this, it's that. You're
Hmm.
like, they're not the ones that make it, but the ones who
Yeah.
are like, man, the market sucks. I'm gonna go kill it. Like that's a different age, and you're like, one, share with me whatever you're smoking, and two, like let's go get it, like because it's a different mindset.
Yeah. I agree. I agree. I think it's just it's like, it's like a lot of us, I think as service members, we're so used to the BS that we
Mm,
think that when we get out, we're just going to be met with more BS. Yet you can leverage the fact that you're a service member and just allow other people to help you
mm,
and use that to your benefit. I think sometimes also service members aren't maximizing their benefits.
mm.
So it just would make sense why a service member wouldn't maximize their potential.
So what benefits do you think they're missing out on? And this is something that I wish this is if I could wave a magic wand and fix everything in the world, this would be the first thing I fix is to have something that says here's everything you as a veteran is qualified for.
Mm,
Everything. And I think it's hard to maximize the benefits when you have no idea. You know, you and I have a conversation. I learned about a program you went through. Well, I didn't know that was a thing. Shoot, I should have done this. Or I joke, I'm from, I live in Texas now.
mm,
I was stationed in Texas. If somebody would have said, hey, if you change your residency to Texas while you're here, you qualify for the Hazelwood Act. Well, here I am
wow.
now trying to
Yeah.
figure out how do I put together a PhD later on. Well, now I got to pay for it out of my pocket if I didn't know these benefits existed. So, I mean, what benefits do you know of that are out there that you think are that aren't being maximized, aren't being used to their full potential?
So something that I had just found out about. So I'll give you two ones that I know of for sure that you have to be a veteran to be able to qualify for is the TVC, so the Texas Veterans
Hmm.
Commission. What they have is that before 2026, like I think it's like December 30th or December 31st, before 2026, veterans are then able to file their LLC for free. So they
Hmm.
waive the $300
Yeah.
fee to start a LLC. And I was like, that's awesome. And so I used it. I went through it, got an
Yeah.
LLC for free for the TVC. The next one is that you have VR&E, this Veterans Readiness and Employment. And the reason why this is beneficial is because if you're a veteran, you're then able, from my understanding of it, is that they will look to help you if you qualify. So it's a based off qualification, but they will look to then help you go through your education. I think it's up to like a bachelor's, but if you're able to get your bachelor's paid for, what type of opportunities does that open up for you?
Mm. Yeah, I think it used to be called Voc Rehab or Voc
Mm,
Rehabilitation is what it used to be called. Yeah, they changed the name on that one.
yeah.
Yeah, those are both great options. And again, I wish there was some way we could just find these. They'd be so much easier. I chat GPT and AI
Yeah.
search stuff all the time. Like, is there something I'm missing? We're doing a remodel of the home, and some of it's for my disabilities there. I'm like, are there any grants that help with the
Mm,
bathroom?
right.
Yes, there are, and like
Wow.
it's
Yeah.
hard to find, but once you find them, they're there, and it really takes conversations. You and I have a conversation. I go tell somebody else about, this or that. Absolutely, they're it needs to be more. I wish there was a database that just put them all out there.
There's certain, I mean, as much as like we like to all consume, whether it's like any type of content, there's a lot of like profiles that'll just go through, information that they're,
Mhm.
experiencing or going through. Also, a nice little Google search goes a very long way. Like
Sure.
what benefits or what grants are there for service members or veterans in general, and just kind of just continuing to ask. And I think that's something that I don't know if it's a service member thing, but it's like people just not asking for what it is that they want. At least just ask. The worst that can happen is no. And it's like, all right, well, didn't want to hear that, but it's better than not knowing if there was a potential yes on the other side of that.
Yeah. So as you've started, you got out of the service, you're just working through real estate, you're working with military, working with some investors. You're now starting to take a little bit of a different turn in your career. What is that looking like now?
So I have always been fascinated about like speaking, but also like writing in general. So I plan on publishing more books. I have two that I plan on publishing before 2026. Everything goes right. And the first one is the Discipline Manifesto. And the second one is going to be a military kind of like handbook for financial literacy. So it's just it's like financial literacy for service members. And that one I am excited to publish just because honestly, it's a way of giving back to service members. So I want to make sure that I give them as much context as possible to then be able to maximize their career as they're still in. And there's value for veterans as well within it.
Now, do you find with writing these books, is there maybe some built-in trust or built-in I'm trying to think of the word I'm looking for, just kind of some built-in credentialing that when you come in, hey, I've offered these many books, I've written, let me help you on your real estate journey, let me help you on these aspects. Have you found that to be the case?
I have, actually, to be honest with you, only because just to be honest with you, like if a service member says that they want to write a book, I would say go do it. Because let's say, for example, this just looking at the cover, right? It shows, one, that I'm a service member. Whether you're intrigued or not about the book it's irrelevant, but it's kind of irrelevant because now I'm able to position myself as I'm one of you. This is something that I just chose to do while I was in the service. On top of that too, let's say someone's not, when you think about business conceptually, say someone is saying, you know what, I'm not at the place where I want to buy or invest into real estate. No problem. But they do want to support. They can say, purchase a book, leave a review. It increases your rapport with that person. So it's like multifaceted as to get someone into your ecosystem in a way that's legal, ethical, and moral. I just decided to publish a book. Thank you so much for supporting me. And we keep on moving forward.
Yeah, and I wouldn't. So for the listener that doesn't know, I met Randy while I was taking a CCIM class, several weeks ago, and I have two books that I've tried to publish, and then as we're doing intros, Randy's like, I've published 433 books. I forget how many you said you did, but I'm sitting in the back of the room, I'm like, this mother, like, okay, this guy's got something. Okay, there's something working on it. And as soon as you started talking, was about his passion for financial literacy and those kind of things there. And I remember sitting there thinking, I'm like, here I am in the back of the room, supposed to be teaching the class, and yet Randy's doing something that it's on the back burner for like 3-4 years, where I'm like, I just need to pull the trigger and get it done. And some of it's the same way. I'm looking at helping small business, veteran-owned businesses grow their side of it, or grow their business. But yet that becomes a bit of a lead funnel for me as well. And like, I can't get over myself. So that's part of the reason why I wanted you on the podcast, because for me, I can't pull the trigger on publishing, but yet you've done this multiple times. Like, how do you feel with the maybe imposter syndrome or those things that come in with, if I put this out there and I'm wrong, or if I put this out there, like people are going to judge me based off of this?
I really do love the question of like the mentality behind it. I will say that there will be feedback and criticism. And honestly, I think that's just expected. Like, for example, before I even published the second book, I had my first book. So when I was on base, I tell people I was an author. I had maybe, I think, one or two people, I had at least one person for sure, like, have the book shipped to their home address and then their spouse shipped it to them overseas. So then he's reading it while we're overseas and he's giving me in-person feedback of saying like, he's like, hey man, he's like, if you were to rewrite this book now, I think it would be better. And I was like, I agree with you. I'm like,
you're at the smoke shack and he's over here giving you a literary
he's like,
review.
he's like going through the book, and he's like, bro, if you rewrote this book now, I really do think it would be better. And I was like, thank you. I mean, you're right. I was like, you're right. I'm older now. I have more life experience. I agree, 100%. But what helps with that is that now, because I can say, oh, but when I publish the next one, I know that this next book will be better than my last book. So it's just a matter of like, it doesn't necessarily hurt me to some degree. Of course, like if the book is trash, then that does hurt you. But if the book actually has value, and you truly believe that the people that you're writing the book for are able to benefit from the information that you're giving them, then I see no issue with writing the book. And I think that then you're not really worried about imposter syndrome, because you're just worried about giving value to your community. So I think writing a book is a great entry to just providing value for the people that you believe you're able to serve best. So I would really challenge anyone to look to maximize the talent, the information, and the experience that they already have. Because I think something that service members tend to do sometimes is undermine their potential. So I would suggest and I would challenge that you don't feel any imposter syndrome when you then look to publish a book, because you're just talking about the value that you've already created. You're just talking about your experiences, and you're just talking about the you're almost like your identity. You're just able to put a piece of your identity into the book. Yeah.
I like that. So, knowing what you know now, as we're kind of wrapping everything up, knowing what you know now and looking back at your transition, is there anything you would have done or anything that you would give advice to the next guy coming through to do differently as you transition from the service into a career in real estate? What would be that one nugget that you wish you would have learned better or help that next guy out?
I would honestly say make sure that you were investing before you came out of the service, just so that your money's working for you. That whatever that investment looks like for you, just something that is compounding above 8%. Not a financial advisor, however, just food for thought. The next thing I would say is that make sure that you understand the customer you want to serve and you understand marketing. Because it took me like a year and a half to just understand marketing. And I was coming across marketing professionals all the time, and they would tell me what to do. And I'd be like, no, I don't want to do that. And be like, well, why not? Like, I would challenge a service member coming out of service, especially if they want to get into real estate, is to invest in your brand presence. So that's podcast, that's TikTok, that's Facebook, that's Instagram, that's YouTube. You want to make sure that if somebody looks your name up, that you have good or decent content around your name, so that then people know you're a real person and they can reach out to you on multiple platforms.
No, I love it. And I absolutely think that's vital, that start building that brand reputation, understanding, even if you don't know what you're going to do.
Yeah. People
Being
love
out there.
seeing, yeah.
Yeah, being out there, being visible. There's a guy on LinkedIn I'm thinking of right now. He's just kind of, he's talking about his transition out of the military. He's like, I don't know what I'm going to do. Here's what I'm learning. Here's what's happening. Here's what I've learned after 20 odd years worth of military service. And like, I'd hire him. I'd hire him in a heartbeat. I like him. I'm invested in his journey.
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea what he's going to do. It's probably not going to be real estate, but yet the fact that he's there, he's building a presence, got people that joined him. Absolutely. I love you putting that out there and seeing all that. So Randy, if any of our guests wanted to reach out to you, or they wanted to find your books or any of that kind of stuff, what's the best way for them to track either you or track your books down?
So the first place that comes to mind is Amazon. So if you look up my name, or you look up the title 2400 Years of Service, or the Hack Method, and hack is spelled HAC, that's the best way to find the books that will be coming out and being published. The next way to get a hold of me is just Randy Mbouge all social media platforms.
Okay, Mbouge is Mbouge. So
Yes, sir.
for those that are watching this one visual,
Yeah.
who don't have the benefit of actually seeing it out there, I'm sure your name gets butchered a lot when they're trying to Google you.
Even in the service, it was bad. Like imagine someone saying, "You're you're bougie, yes," and it'd be like, "It's like," and in the service, there's no like actually answering that unless you want everyone to suffer. So it was just,
Right.
yeah. So
Well,
yes, Mbouge, yes, all the way.
awesome. Well, Randy, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for being able to share your story and the resources and experience you've had. And for those guests that are watching, connect with Randy, go out there and find him, look at his book as well. And of course, if you found value in this one, give us a like, a comment if you got questions, or share it to somebody you think that may want to finally get that book written or is looking at those careers in real estate. So again, Randy, thank you so much for your time and being willing to share your time and your story with us.
Thank you for the opportunity, truly.